Hello and welcome to Mark No Horsemanship. Here we are with Daisy, a 2.5-year-old American quarter horse filly. Really the video today is not really on Daisy, although I'm going to use Daisy for the video, but I had a lady request to help her with, she's got a 6-month-old, I think, Clydesdale. I don't know if it's a gelding or I think it's a little gelding. But anyway, she wanted to know how to. She said the little weanling was handling fine, it would lead fine, and all that, but he was starting to get a little bit pushy, and she was wanting to know if I could help her, give her some advice on how to get that weanling off of her. And the little technique I'm going to use today will work. And Daisy don't really need it, but she's a willing partner that I chose to use. Because it's not going to hurt her to do it with her, but I hope this helps the lady. And so what I generally try to do is put these things on with a halter and a rope, just like you see. And I use a little buggy whip, and I'm not going to actually hit her with the buggy whip. I'll actually hit myself. But what I'm going to do is lead Daisy around, and at any given time, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on her to back her up, and I'll explain it as it goes. So we'll just get started here, and I'll just lead Daisy around the pen. And Daisy's not on top of me, but at the same time, it won't hurt to remind her. So I'll do it over here so you can see me better. But what I like to do is just stop and sort of back these things off of me. But what I'm doing right now is more important than what I just did. I'll say that again. What I'm doing right now is more important than what I just did. And what I'm doing right now is nothing. In other words, I'm letting that horse soak all this in. I'm letting it retain what just happened. A lot of people will do this, and they'll do it over and over. They'll just take off and lead them, back them up, take off and lead them and back them up. You're not really giving that horse time to think about it. So eventually, when you stop, they should stop. When you back up, they should back up. And I'll briefly go into something else that you can try or do with a horse that's on top of you and wants to be on you all the time. But we'll get to that in just a moment. So again, I'll just lead Daisy off right here, and then I'll back her up again, like right here. I'll just back her up and have her stand there and think about that for just a moment. And ideally, you just want to I just personally use my peripheral vision. I don't actually want to turn around and look at the horse. That's a little bit more intimidating for them. I'm not trying to intimidate them. Actually, I'm trying to be the leader. And by me, with my back to them, it's kind of like telling them, look, I'm not worried about you. I'm the leader. I'm the more dominant one. You should be worried about me. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's just the way I look at it. In other words, in my mind, I'm saying, I'm not worried about you. You're no concern to me. In other words, I'm just not worried about you. I'm the leader. You need to worry about me. Kind of like an arrogant, kind of like keeping my back to them. So I'll lead her off again. Might go a little further this time. I'll cut this pin in half and do it right here in the middle. See it a little bit better. Right here, I'll just simply back her up, just like right there. You notice I don't have to do a lot with Daisy. She's pretty respectful. She's pretty sensitive, and that's a pretty good deal with her. Now, I always like to test to see if what I've done has worked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be less now. Now, the first time I was really expressive and overreactive, but if you've noticed, I've lessened and lessened my body signs or my body signals. I've not been as aggressive. I've calmed down a little bit since the first time. So now I'm going to test it to see if it's worked or not. And I'm simply going to stop. She stops. I'm going to take a step back. She takes a step back. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a step back, 2 steps, 3 steps, See there? I don't have to be quite as dramatic or theatrical in my movements. She's learned, in other words. So I hope that will help the lady with the Clydesdale weanling. If you'll try that, I think it'll work. Be careful that they don't, you want to keep a short rope on them, about 3 feet or 4 feet. And I always like to wrap it around my body like this. And that way if they pull, it's like they're pulling against me. But you don't want them to wheel that rope around and kick you. And they can pivot right around during this process and kick you. So just be careful. So another thing that you can do for a pushy horse, that's a little bit more, how can I say it? That's a little bit more like showy, doing it that way. This way is a little bit more primitive, a little bit less showy, but you can always just sort of wiggle that rope. If you're leading a horse, or a colt, whatever, and they're on top of you, let's just pretend that you're leading it to the turnout lot, or you're leading it to the barn, and that thing is all over you. Well, don't be afraid just to turn around and back that colt up, or that horse, whatever it is, but always give them a moment to think about it, just like you do with the other little technique. Another thing you can do, and if you're not real good with your ropes, or if you're just not real coordinated with doing the things I just did, if you're leading the horse and it's a little bit pushy, you can always turn around and just back that colt up, or that horse, and say, hey, I want you back there. I don't want you on my shoulder. I don't want you in my hip pocket. I want you right there. So there's several ways you can do this. You can also take like a cow stick or something. I've got one right here. Just give me a moment. You can always take like a cow stick, and you can teach a horse to stay off of you and back up by bumping this rope too. I mean, you can just, because it vibrates, especially with a rope halter, it'll vibrate that skull pretty good. You can just tap that rope and make sure they back up right there. I don't particularly like it that I only use this method when it's pretty extreme, when they're really, 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 really bad. But I've had more success out of doing it with the whip and slapping my legs and backing up. I've had more success at doing that. And there's times I don't have a whip. There's times that you're leading outside, and that's when I'll just turn around and I'll sort of just get that horse off of me. But I always allow that horse time to think. So there's just 3 different little ways that you can teach a horse to stay off of you. And I hope that helps, and I hope that she can get it done. What is it, Burgundy?
Well, not necessarily for this lady, but I just would like to remind everybody, be sure you're not giving your horse mixed signals. In other words, one time allowing it to rub all over you, hand feeding it, this, that, and another, and then getting mad when it pushes on you.
That's a good point. So if you want a horse to stay off of you, as my wife very, 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 very good stated just now, you don't want to be at times letting them rub on you. A lot of people think it's fun, and I see a lot of people doing that. I don't allow a horse to rub on me. I'm not a scratching post. And they learn to push around on you, and they learn to become dominant. And again, like she said, the hand feeding,
hand feeding, I've seen people get away with it, but a lot of times people can't keep the discipline with the hand feeding. So.
That's right. So I always tell people, if you can keep a horse maintained, like Burgundy said, with their discipline, with hand feeding them, then hand feeding them's all right. But if you can't, then steer away from them.
And I've also seen, especially with babies, and like I said, not necessarily this lady, but babies are cute, and everybody thinks it's cute to rub on them. Be sure you have a halter on that baby when you're with it so you can correct it. Do not go out in the field and just want to love all over it, because it's going to learn
to lean on you.
Yeah, be sure that you can correct that baby, that weanling, that grown horse, whatever.
That's right. Good points. So try all them messages or them methods, ma'am, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. And for all those others that watch this, that's just some good little tricks of the trade. Y'all keep your eye out for Daisy. We're getting her wolf teeth pulled here in a few days, and we're going to start her in a snaffle bit, and we're going to work her a couple of weeks in a snaffle bit, and then she's going to go home and be turned out for a few months and be brought back in the latter part of the spring or early summer, maybe on into summer a little bit, and be advanced further. So for all those out there that's wondering if I'm really riding these 2-year-olds, then no, I'm not. I'm just getting them started. Like my business says, colt starting is just colt starting. It's just getting them started. But keep your eye out for videos on Daisy next week. I want to tell the owners of Daisy, I appreciate y'all so much, and can't wait to show you the progress that I'm going to have with her after I get her wolf teeth out and get her started in the bridle. So thank you for watching, and God bless.